Well, now claims and counterclaims continue to come from Panjshir, the last province that's still holding out against the Taliban. Taliban claims that they have surrounded Panjshir from all sides and have killed, in fact, they've called for peace there since they don't want war. They also claim that talks with Masood and supporters have failed. But Panjshir resistance claims that 115 Taliban fighters were killed in the last offensive and Taliban fighters have been pushed back. In fact, not only that, resistance claims that they've wounded 200 Taliban fighters and detained 55 of them. Meanwhile, self-proclaimed caretaker there, President of Afghanistan, Amrullah Saleh, has said that Taliban's words are different from their actions and has said that it is impossible to run Afghanistan with illiterate people.
In the past 40 hours, Taliban have had some offensive to the Khawak High Pass from the Andarab Valley of Baghla. From our side, there were local forces of Andarab, different districts of Andarab, local forces of Panjshir, as well as the ANSF forces. They have defended very well. They have defeated Taliban on that front. Taliban have lost 40 of their personnel, another 35 of them were wounded. 4 armies of Taliban were destroyed, 2 rangers of Taliban were destroyed, and they did not succeed on their offensive, and they did not advance even a kilometer. September 1st, 2021, Panjshir.
Meanwhile, Taliban is all set to announce new government. Mullah Baradar, Taliban's presidential face, is in Kabul currently, and Taliban supreme head Haibatullah Akhundzada has now chaired a 3-day meeting with the top leadership to finalize the government's formation. Let's take a look.
Mullah Baradar, Taliban's presidential face, is in Kabul as the government formation of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan enters its final stage. A 3-day meeting of the Taliban Leadership Council was also held in Kandahar, chaired by the Supreme Leader, Haibatullah Akhundzada. So who will be the men who will run the war-ravaged nation now? Taliban says there is no doubt that Mullah Haibatullah Akhundzada, the leader of the Taliban, will be part of the government. A spokesperson said that Akhundzada will be the leader of the new government. Unconfirmed reports indicate that there will also be a Prime Minister post in the next government. Sher Mohammad Abbas Tanikzai, who met India's envoy to Qatar in Doha on Tuesday, is tipped to be the new foreign minister. Sadar Ibrahim, an expert in roadside blasts, is likely to be made the new home minister. The Taliban has already appointed governors, police chiefs and police commanders for provinces and districts. The Taliban has said it wants to form an inclusive government and that it has been talking to members of former governments to encourage them to join a new administration. It has also pledged to respect human rights and women's freedom within Islamic law. There are, however, few signs of the draconian restrictions the Taliban imposed last time they were in power. Schools have reopened to boys and girls, though Taliban officials have said they will study separately. But for the Taliban, governing Afghanistan will not be easy. The country's long-running economic crisis has only worsened. The local currency is losing value. Most of Afghanistan's foreign reserves are held abroad and currently frozen. And a major drought threatens the food supply. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, is terror nexus of the Taliban and the Al Qaeda back in Afghanistan? Well, soon after the American exit, top Al Qaeda leader and close aide of Osama bin Laden, Aminul Haq, returned to Kandahar to a rousing reception. In a congratulatory message to the Taliban, Al Qaeda also called for the liberation of Kashmir as part of its aim to establish an Islamic caliphate. Now, the rebirth of once most feared terror group and its alliance with Taliban could be the next big security threat and a nightmare.
If the nightmare of history repeating itself had an image, you are looking at it. The man on your television screen is Aminul Haq, a top Al Qaeda leader, a close aide of Osama bin Laden. Seen here being welcomed back to his native Nangarhar province after it fell to the Taliban. If the lightning return of the Taliban wasn't a big enough confirmation of America's 2 decades failure, this phase should exponentially haunt Washington DC and the rest of the world. Especially at a time when the US president has declared for the second time in weeks that Al Qaeda has been destroyed.
We delivered justice to bin Laden on May 2nd, 2011, over a decade ago. Al Qaeda was decimated.
In a second sharp irony, Aminul Haq, who was Osama bin Laden's security chief in Afghanistan's Tora Bora mountains, emerges from the shadows right before the 20th anniversary of 9/11. It was this man who's understood to have helped the Al Qaeda founder escape US forces in 2002 by moving him out of Tora Bora in eastern Afghanistan to Waziristan in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. The Tora Bora cave complex, high up in the mountains, was where the senior Al Qaeda leadership was holed up at the time. His role in helping the world's most wanted terrorist Osama bin Laden escape was described in former Pakistan President General Pervez Musharraf's memoir In the Line of Fire, based on information from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the third highest ranking member of the Al Qaeda. By stepping out and welcoming the Taliban, the Al Qaeda has signaled something that the US Central Intelligence Agency will take weeks to digest. For starters, claims that Al Qaeda had been wiped out are now directly questionable. Even if one were to take American declaration that the Al Qaeda had been weakened beyond repair, the fact that Osama's top aide is now in the warm embrace of the friendly Taliban means they can recuperate. The enormous weapon harvest left by the United States also means that Al Qaeda can quickly rearm itself easily. But the development isn't just a wake-up call for the United States, but directly for India as well. The Al Qaeda has sent up a declaration for war for an Islamic caliphate that includes Kashmir. A detailed statement issued by Al Qaeda after Taliban's takeover is a call to arms to liberate so-called Islamic land from the clutches of the enemies of Islam. O Allah, liberate the Levant, Somalia, Yemen, Kashmir. Could the face of Aminul Haq signal the rebirth of once most feared terrorist organization? And has the new world given them even more potency and lethal potential? Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, with less than 7 months left for assembly elections in Punjab, the power tussle between Captain Amrinder Singh and Navjot Singh Sidhu has now turned into a never-ending saga. Punjab Congress chief is in Delhi once again, hoping to be meeting with Priyanka Gandhi over the tussle. And this time, this comes after Sidhu reportedly refused to join Harish Rawat during his meeting with Captain Amrinder Singh. According to sources, Harish Rawat had asked Sidhu to play like a team member and focus on party's functioning, especially ahead of the elections. Whereas Sidhu has insisted on a free hand in Punjab in the capacity of the party's president. Sidhu has also expressed displeasure over 18-point action plan that's been decided by the 3-member committee. Now, just about a week ago, Sidhu had threatened the Congress High Command, saying that if he is not really allowed to take decisions, that he won't spare anyone. Here's what he had said.
और आज भी मैं हाई कमांड ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕੋ ਗੱਲ ਕਹਿ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਇਸ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਮਾਡਲ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਆਸਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਖਰਾ ਉਤਰੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਅਗਲੇ ਸਾਲ 20 ਸਾਲ ਰਾਜਨੀਤੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਂਗਰਸ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਊਂ ਲੇਕਿਨ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਿਰਣੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੈਣ ਦੋਗੇ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਟ ਵੀ ਖੜਕਾਊਂ ਇੱਟ ਵੀ
Now, shifting focus, Allahabad High Court has observed that cows should be given the status of national animal. Apart from this, the court made an appeal to the centre, saying that government should discuss the matter in the parliament and give fundamental rights to cows, as it is part of India's culture. The court made this observation while denying bail to an individual charged under the Offences of Prevention of Cow Slaughter Act in Uttar Pradesh. Justice Shekhar Kumar Yadav, while heading a single bench, observed that India can only prosper if cow in fact is revered in the country. The verdict has now sparked quite a political war of words on cows in Uttar Pradesh. While BJP lauded Allahabad High Court's observation, Samajwadi Party has accused BJP of not doing enough for the upliftment of cows in the first place.
गौ माता के संरक्षण को हाई कोर्ट के फैसले के आलोक में गंभीरता पूर्वक देखे जाने की आवश्यकता है। भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार को चाहिए कि इस पर संविधान सम्मत फैसला ले और भारतीय जनता पार्टी को बताना चाहिए कि जिस तरीके से वो सांस्कृतिक एकता की बात करती है, गौ माता के संरक्षण की बात करती है, तो उनके कुछ राज्यों में गौवध क्यों जायज है।
और ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार गाय माता पे राजनीति तो करती है, लेकिन गाय माता को भोजन नहीं दे सकती, उनके रहने की व्यवस्था नहीं कर सकती। इससे ज्यादा शर्म की बात तो किसी भी सरकार के लिए हो ही नहीं सकती।
आज गायों के पालन के संवर्धन के लिए हमने अलग अलग नियम भी बनाए हैं, गौशालाएं बनाई हैं। जो तमाम अवैध जमीनें थी, जो भूमाफियाओं के कब्जे में थी, जो गौचर की जमीनें थी, गौशालाओं की जमीनें थी, उनको मुक्त करा करके बड़े पैमाने पर गौशालाएं बनाई हैं। हाईकोर्ट का निर्णय बहुत सराहनीय है और सरकार इस निर्णय के अधीन पहले से ही कई सारे प्रयास कर रही है।
Now, as schools open their doors for students after almost 500 days in the national capital, most parents, of course, particularly those affluent, aren't willing to send their kids to schools. They fear that unvaccinated kids going to schools is a recipe for disaster. In fact, this has further widened the digital divide between private and government schools. Pooja Shali with this ground report.
Most parents in Delhi, from affluent families and with children studying in private schools, are not yet ready to send their children back into classrooms. With the online education platform available, many parents are asking what is the hurry to open schools. Parents feel until vaccinated, they cannot risk the health of their child and are comfortable with the online education platform.
Fear is that बच्चों को कहीं catch ना
Ma'am, of course there is a fear, there is a third wave fear and everything. So of course we cannot take the risk at all. It's very good that they have given us two options. One is offline and one is online. Correct. And we are very much satisfied they have given the online. My younger one is in 8th standard and he'll take the online classes also. Okay. So as my elder one.
12th student Utkarsh and his sibling Ojasya in the 8th standard are comfortable and accustomed to the online education. Days are spent glued to the screen, but in safe confines of their home. Utkarsh attends to his worksheets online, and on some days he goes to school for his practicals.
For the school, the proper schools to reopen, there will be a lot of teachers, there will be a lot of children. That's, I think, kind of unsafe because nobody's vaccinated. I mean, the children are not vaccinated at all. Right now. And the teachers are also, some of the teachers are they are not, second dose is not given to them yet. So that's why I think the proper normal school is not all right, fine right.
7-year-old Hiram Upadhyay has been at home ever since the pandemic started. His father, Dr. Vinoy Upadhyay, has decided not to send their child to school even if private schools reopen. The fear that the child may contract the COVID infection. Like most parents, Dr. Upadhyay too is waiting for the children vaccine. So they are assured of the child's protection against COVID-19 ahead of the third wave.
What we have observed that over the last 1.5 years, there is a fluctuation of the course of the COVID, and also because the vaccine for the kids are still not available. So we will be more comfortable if he continues with his online classes, and when this scenario improves, we'll definitely love to send our kid to the in the school.
How many hundreds are there?
For now, the parents who have access to online education intend to continue and not take the chance to put their child at risk. With Pooja Shali and Milan Sharma, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, AIIMS Director Dr. Randeep Guleria spoke with India Today in an exclusive conversation. As schools reopened across the country, Dr. Guleria stressed on the importance of sending children back to school in areas with low positivity rate, as many have no access to online education. But he's in fact warned schools in Kerala that it should not reopen, as surge could be an indication of a spurt in cases in the country ahead of the third wave. Kerala reported 32,803 new infections on Tuesday and a high positivity rate of 18.76%. In fact, the AIIMS director reiterated that Bharat Biotech is set to apply for regulatory approvals for Covaxin shots for kids by September end. Guleria has also said that there's no need for booster doses in the country as of now, as no data suggests it increases immunity.
So first of all, I think schools need to open up at some point in time, because when we look at education for children, it's not only the online classes, it's a lot of physical interaction, which is important, whether it be with teachers, whether it be with their other friends and other activities. And many children get left out of these activities if they don't have internet connection or are not having a smartphone or a computer at home. So it's important to have schools physically present. But when we open schools, we also need to be cautious. We don't want children to get ill. So I think the first thing is that we need to make sure that in areas where schools are opening up, the case positivity is very low. We know that for many weeks now, we have very few cases in Delhi. So in a situation like that, when your case positivity is very low, it would be practical to open schools, because if you look at the risk-benefit analysis, the benefit is much more than the minimal risk that may be there of schools opening up. But along with that, the school authorities need to also have certain things in place. All the teachers and these other people working in the school, the older people should get themselves vaccinated. So the school should have a vaccinated staff. Along with that, there has to be some degree of COVID-appropriate behavior and mechanism that children don't get crowded together, so that they, especially during the beginning of the school and the end of the school and when there is the lunch break. So that has to be staggered to some extent so that crowding doesn't happen. And there should be good means for hand washing. And if ventilation is possible, then good ventilation in the school would also be something that would be very useful. I'm hopeful that, and this is based on my own opinion, that it should come through even earlier. But like I said, this depends on how the data analysis is done and when the company applies for regulatory approval. So I think that has also been submitted to the WHO. The documents that they wanted have also been submitted to them. So let's see. One is hopeful that by in this month you may get the WHO approval, but it's difficult for me to say. This is something which the WHO committee has to take a call on based on the data that has been given to them. One is hopeful and would like that it gets approved as early as possible, because many of us who have taken Covaxin would want the WHO approval, because that will help us to really travel with the certificate that we have got a vaccine which is WHO approved.